Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Hello, and welcome to the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Stephanie, and on today's episode, we're going to be discussing all the weird stuff that couples do in relationships, maybe the secrets that they keep, and also the stuff you should definitely tell your new partner when you have one, and the stuff you should keep secret when you're in a relationship. So that's going to be at the end of the episode, but just before we get started, I'll just talk to you guys a little bit. So an update on the last episode I did was about pets and relationships and how they influence relationships. Well, just an update on my life. I actually did get a cat. So me and my partner ended up adopting a kitten, and his name is Max, and he's pretty perfect. But of course, I'm going to say that as a new mom to a new little kitty. So just in case you guys were wondering, and even if you're not, I thought that episode was pretty interesting. So yeah, Pets or People is the title of the episode, and it just had to do all with pets, and who doesn't like that topic? So just thought I'd circle back to that a little bit. And yes, I am that circle back person. So anyways, let's get started with today's episode where we're talking about all the weird stuff people do in relationships. I just want to talk about this because, there's a couple of things that's like weird in my relationship that I do, and it just kind of had me wondering, like, how common is this? So I started Googling a couple things, and I got some pretty interesting articles that I want to share with you guys. So let's get started. The first article I found was from medium.com, and the title of the article is Some of the Weird Things All Couples Do. So pretty generic, right? But the first one on there was that couples just use stupid random nicknames, and I found that happens with animals or siblings, anyone that you care about. You end up just calling them anything other than their name. So when they do call you by your name, you get a little like alarmed. You're like, am I in trouble? Like, are you mad at me? Like, what's going on? What is something serious happening? Because like here in this article, it mentions the writer calls her partner like Biscuit, Skillet, Cricket, like Pacha from The Emperor's New Groove, like just all sorts of random names, and that's very true. Right? Like we all like just come up with whatever name comes to us in the moment or whoever they remind us of. I know everyone in my phone has a nickname. So for my partner, I won't say his nickname because I won't give away his name, his actual name, because it's pretty close to it. But like I have some other friends, like one, unfortunately, I call Gonad. Now that's not really appropriate and she kind of hates it, but I'm like, hey, you're like someone I can't live without, and that's usually the case for a gonad. So it's a little personal, but it is hilarious because now that's just who she is in my phone, and it's just a fun reminder of how close our relationship is. But it is that is a weird name to have to give someone for sure. So let us know like what weird names you have for your partners on our Instagram or on our Twitter. It's just GSMC_relationship, and you can share some of the weird pet names you have for your friends and partners too. I think that's fun just to like feel less weird about it. Okay, the next weird things couples do is they speak to each other in sounds or made up language. And again, this is definitely something that I do. Just making weird noises like, hey, or, you just have little quirks that you just do around the house. Like, for example, this writer's like, They made up the quote-unquote Kevin Bird sound from the movie Up. And so they just do that to each other across the room. Or like you just like groan, or you just make noises during conversations that just happen naturally. And it's just really funny. And the writer also mentions that like her parents have a lot of their conversations through dogs. Like, what does that even look like? If anyone knows, like, reach out, let me know. But I can't even imagine, like, what that means. Conversations through dogs. So, anyways, another weird thing that is mentioned in the Medium.com article is that, you know, you just watch rom-coms and drink rosé together. Or you do something weird, like in our house, so maybe this is a little weird for other people too, but we just, like, kind of get drunk and watch Harry Potter movies, and it's just nice to, you know, we're both Harry Potter fans, we love the books, so when we watch the movies, there's obviously a lot of plot holes and inconsistencies, and if you don't know that's fine, but it's something weird that we do because it's become ritualistic. Not that we're doing it every weekend, but it's just a weird thing that we like to do together. So, or, you know, we play tabletop Harry Potter games. That's also can be weird for some people. So, anyways, but we love it. The next thing on the list is, with your partner, you tend to ask completely ridiculous hypothetical questions. Now, I'm more likely to do this than my partner. My partner doesn't really like ask me these crazy questions, but I don't know. I just, I do ask like random questions. Like, in the article, it mentions, you know, if our cat was the U.S. Poet Laureate, where would she draw her inspiration from? What would she write about? Like, I do ask random questions like that, you know, like not just where can you go in the world, but you really come up with some crazy shit. So yeah, I just, another example is like, if you had to live inside a letter of an alphabet, which letter would you choose? You know, at a certain point, like, you're talked out about like your daily life, and, you know, you kind of talk about the shows that you're watching, but when you live with your partner long enough, you know, you start to like really think about random ass stuff that you haven't talked about. So these questions do come up. It's really funny. Oh goodness, this is an intense one, but like one that all couples do. At least I think so. All the couples that I know. But you tweeze each other's stray hairs and pop their pimples. Now, I can absolutely not stand popping pimples. I hate it. It's the most disgusting thing in the world to me, like legitimately the most disgusting thing in the world. And my partner loves watching like Dr. Pimple. I forget her name, but you know, she has her own show, and it was about like how big pimples would get, and you just like have to have surgery in order to like get them out. Ugh. But anyways, but the tweezing thing I can do, and like other, you know, kind of grooming things that you do with your partner, I definitely have done that before. Oh, but here's the thing. So like we're in quarantines, and my partner's hair is getting really long, and I just want to cut it. Like I just want to cut his hair, and he won't let me. So let me know if you struggle with that too. I'm like, please just let me try and cut your hair. It's not like anyone's going to see you for the next year. So just let me do it. All right. So the next weird thing on the list is, they're just going on about like other miscellaneous gross things, but, you know, like pooping and farting and like the stuff that you legitimately just have to do in front of your partner. I don't consider that weird. I just consider it like natural and human. So it's funny, that they have that listed as weird. But the next one on the list is that you talk shit about mutual friends, and that is unfortunately 100% true. I mean, we all have to get stuff off of our chest. We all have opinions, so this is totally gonna happen. Like, but like right after you hang out, you like get in your car and you're going home, and then the shit talking starts, and it's 100% like what happens. Maybe not even just shit talking, but like I would consider it more gossipy. Like, you know, where do you see them having a future together if it's a new couple that you just hung out with, or, you know, if it's a new couple that, like, one of the partners is meeting, like, if you like them or not and how you got along. So, that's 100% something you do. But you do that with your friends, too. So, I don't know if that's weird or if it's just human, right? But this one, the sex one is kind of weird. So it's when you make inside jokes that like have run their course and they're definitely not funny anymore. Like you're years in with your partner and you still make these like weird inside jokes, even in public, that no one's gonna understand. Like for instance, my boyfriend showed me this video of Paul Rudd like from a long time ago on a comedy sketch show, and if you know this, you're gonna know this, and if you don't, like maybe Google it, but it's really, really weird. But anyways, Paul Rudd says like, now Tane I can get into. And that's 100% something like he says like very randomly. Sometimes like I'll be like laughing with him, and then sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, this again. So it's 100% something that we definitely do. Or, you know, like that bit, Charlie, you know, like Charlie bit my finger. Like that one is, why does that still make me laugh? I have no idea, but like we'll randomly do that with like friends and stuff if we're talking about a British person. So yeah, definitely weird stuff that we talk about randomly. All those inside jokes. I love it though. This next one, I don't know if it's weird again or just humid, but it's like they talk about get irrationally angry about the way they chew or walk or sleep or blink or breathe. So it's really funny because it's like you're with them for so long, like you start pinpointing stuff that like bugs you because it's just you're with them all the time and everyone has their own unique habits, right? So I know that definitely happens with me. I have some pet peeves about like maybe leaving dishes in the sink when the dishwasher is empty. Not sure why that happens, but it does. And yeah, so I have pet peeves like that too. Oh, or laundry. Don't even get me started. But a weird thing that couples do, I agree with this one, is deliberately annoying each other in harmless ways. So the article, I just have to quote it because it's actually pretty funny. It's, as a self-respecting average woman, capitalized average woman, one of my personal favorite moves is obviously to put my cold hands on my boyfriend's body. And I do that all the time. When, you know, you're laying in bed at night, like I definitely like just make sure my cold ass feet are like right on the warmest part of his body, and it's freaking hilarious. I love doing that. He's always just like, why do you have to do that? And it's just, I don't know, because it's fun to see you react to it. But it's just fun to see him react, and that's what this article says. But like they go on to say like other ways to annoy your partner is like pretending rom-coms we watch are really for him and not me. Interesting. Playing a song on repeat until he notices. Putting pop country music on the car anytime we go somewhere. I 100% do that because I like country. It's problematic. But I grew up with it, so I like it a lot, and my partner hates it, like to a point where we would get in an argument if I did it for too long. So, but I do that too. It's hilarious. Reminding your partner that like your once edgy favorite pop punk bands are now like dudes in their 40s still singing the same songs, and that's hilarious to do as well because I know some of the bands that my partner likes, like they're well into their 40s and we still go and see them. So it's funny to like point out the little like pot bellies they may have or the graying hair, receding hairline. So it's funny to remind him like, hey, they kind of look like you. Ha ha ha. Just kidding. He does not look like that. But anyways, we're all getting old, so it's just funny to make fun of them getting old. But yeah, so the next one on the list is to troll each other's siblings or moms. And oh my gosh. So I haven't been with my partner long enough that I feel comfortable doing this yet, but I've definitely done this in the past. I usually have pretty good relationships with my partner's family, and it's really funny to just like watch the siblings like interact and kind of fuck with them as much as you can, but as much as you feel comfortable with. But yeah. Okay, so this next one I have a different variation of, but the next weird thing couples do is like you both order something to eat or drink, but then you swap because theirs looked better. But in our case, we have this weird quirk where we can't order the same thing, even though we don't typically like share food. I mean, a bite here and there to try what the other person ordered, but we don't typically like say, oh yeah, let's split it and like both share food. So it's really weird that we have the rule that we can't order the same meal because it I mean, if we're not sharing, then why can't we order the same meal? But yeah, it's just like a weird, like, little routine that we have when we go out. But yeah, it's definitely something couples do. Also, you know, the last bite of food, when you have that, like, let's say that you like what your partner's eating and you want a bite and there's only one bite left, or it's like you reserve a bite for your partner because they haven't tried your meal yet. It's definitely something partners do. So another one on the list is wear each other's clothes. 100% true. In our relationship, I tend to wear his stuff because it's bigger and it's more comfortable, and then I don't have to wash my clothes. So I just wear his stuff because, I don't know, he seems to have an endless supply of like sleep shirts and, you know, bottoms. So I just like tend to go for those. Let's be real. But yeah. Another good, I don't know if it's weird. It's just a normal couple thing, but maybe it's weird to single people who haven't dated. I'm not sure. But the drive-by grope, you know, like if you're in the kitchen and you're getting something to eat and your partner passes you, they definitely, that does happen. This is a weird one that I hadn't seen before. It's lay on top of each other, both facing down. And the commentary underneath is like, yeah, you just lay there. That's it. And if you never experienced it, they say it's like spooning on crack. It's like a weighted blanket. So it's just great after a long day. Now, I haven't tried this, but I'm definitely going to because that sounds amazing. And it just sounds like really relaxing to have like that solid pressure on your body. And who better to do it than your partner? So yeah, just to wrap this article up, it's like you just make up names and for different body parts. That definitely happens. You make up names for inanimate objects. Like we named our Roomba, Todd, just because it was a way to communicate, like, what is happening, you know, can you go run, Todd? We could say Roomba, but it's more fun just to name, you know, like to pretend to play parents because we're not yet. Now we have little Max, but yeah, before we got Todd, and so we just named him Todd. And the last one I'll mention is like, the last one I'll mention is just like you dance or walk weird for a minute for the hell of it. So you're just like, there's certain things that you just do. Like sometimes I eat food and I just like jiggle a little bit because it was so good. Or instead of like a drive-by grope, like, you know, I mentioned when you're in the kitchen and you go in, you're just going to touch your partner. Well, sometimes I just like do a little shimmy and I do a little shake. And it's just to like weird them out or just to get a reaction. So yeah, 100% have tried that and will continue to do that. But yeah, so if you guys have any weird things that you do with your partner that you want to share, reach out because I love talking about this stuff. Not just because it makes me feel more normal, but it gives me other weird ideas to do with my own partner, like the laying on each other thing, like where you're both face down. That it just never occurred to me, I suppose, to like, I don't know, smush my partner. So I'm going to try that tonight for sure. But yeah, definitely reach out to our Instagram or Twitter. Like I said, it's GSMC_relationship. And we can talk about all the weird stuff we do with our partners. Okay, so that's the end of this segment. In the next segment, I'm going to be talking about the weird things that you have in common with your partner that show your relationship will last, and the annoying things you should stop doing as a couple altogether for the sanity of the world, I guess. And then don't forget, at the end of the episode, I'm going to share secrets you should always keep from your partner. So not what you should tell them. I'll go over that in segment 3, but at the end of the episode, I'm going to talk about secrets you should keep from your partner. So make sure you stick around for that, and I'll see you after the break.
The GSMC Sex Podcast is a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet. Download the GSMC Sex Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you can find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey guys, and welcome back from the break. So before the break, we were talking about the weird things that couples can start to do after they've been in a relationship for a while. And now we're going to talk about like the common things that kind of show your relationship will last, like the weird things that you guys share in common that kind of have been proven to show that if you do have those things in common, that the relationships have lasted longer. So then we're going to talk about the annoying things you should just stop doing with your partner for the world at large, I suppose. But we'll get more into that as the segment goes. So let's start with the weird stuff that if you have that in common with your partner, you're more likely to last. And this article is from Bustle. So the first item that they listed was moving at the same pace in life. So basically, therapist Shannon Thomas said that couples who are able to keep their relationship vibrant over many seasons often enjoy living life at a similar speed and pace. So this idea means that go-getters who like working all day may be more evenly matched with each other, and those who like keeping things a bit more low-key and methodical may pair up as well. So if you want to last with a partner, then it may be a good idea to assess whether you two will want to live your lives to move at similar paces as the year progresses. That's actually really important. I find that me and my partner are opposites. He's more type A, so that means more regimented, scheduled and self-driven, and I am type B, so that means I kind of let the world come at me. I'm more reactive. I'm not as proactive in achieving goals as he is. So it has created a little bit of tension in our relationship, but eventually we learn to like respect each other's styles, and we kind of just leave each other alone when it comes to career and just let each other progress. Now, it is important to remember, if that's a need of yours for your partner to be as ambitious as you are, like if it's that important to you, then that's a lot different than the style that me and my partner have adopted. But anyways, you're basically you should have these discussions, or you should notice these trends. And if they really bother you, then have a conversation about it. So the next one on the list is if you both are a traveler or if you both are a homebody. So Thomas goes on to say, the therapist goes on to say, couples who have either a similar traveler spirit or a homebody personality in common can become a long-lasting relationship. It's very challenging to partner with someone who views the choices of travel or staycations very differently. One partner could feel held back from seeing the world and the other shoved out of their comfort zone. So it may be worth considering when thinking of a long-term relationship if this person has the same feeling about travel as you do, because that tends to be a huge stickler with people. I really like to travel. My partner likes to travel as well, so not as much as I do, but he does like to travel and experience new things, which is very helpful for me because it lets me know that in the future, if I want to go somewhere, he's not going to be opposed to it. Now, is he going to want it fully planned in his type A style? 100%, but doesn't mean he doesn't want to go. And we're both kind of home buddies for the most part. I do like to travel, but I'm not always on the go. So we work well as being just home buddies. And, quarantine is kind of helping with that. Like, we just stay home all the time and we're totally fine with it. Okay, so this next item that's listed, like if you have it in common with your partner, you're more likely to last. It's not necessarily weird. I wouldn't call these strange, but that's not how the article was phrased. But anyways, this next one is it's a pretty big one. It's your sense of humor. So a different therapist goes on to say that having a similar sense of humor is something that long-lasting couples tend to have in common. It might seem insignificant, but if one person is a meme master and the other just doesn't get memes, you don't connect as well. So, as weird as it seems, you may actually want to put more thought into like if their sense of humor matches yours or not, because that's a way that humans just connect with each other and create, inside jokes and bonds. It's like through humor, through lightheartedness. And if you don't have a similar taste for what that is, then you might be missing the mark there for like a major way that people communicate. Now, it's not I wouldn't consider it a deal breaker. Everyone's different. Like some people, I was watching Indian matchmaking on Netflix, and there's this one woman who wanted to have, get a match. She wanted a partner, and they were going over her requirements, and the matchmaker suggested, a sense of humor. And she was like, no, that's not for me. To me, that's like unheard of. That's how I kind of like live and breathe, is through humor. But so it might not be a deal breaker, but if it is for you, just be aware of that it is important, because that's a major way people communicate in relationships, at least. Okay, so the next one that they say, if you have positive illusions of each other, it's like, romantic love. It's like the rose-colored glasses. But yeah, another counselor and relationship expert noted that couples tend to stay together for a long time. The ones that stay together have an idealistic view of their partners and the relationship. And, if you don't have that positive illusion, it's like you may want to think more about the relationship, like if it's built to last. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, the rose-colored glasses come off after a while, and then what? So, but there are certain things that you should admire about your partner, and remind yourself like why you like them, because it is easy to get caught up in the stuff that annoys you. Like I mentioned in the first segment, little things can start to make you get on edge, like their little habits. But it's just as equally important to remember the good stuff and remember why you fell in love in the first place. So I think it really just calls back to, if you have respect for your partner and admiration for them in different ways that they behave, specifically different ways that are different than yours, that's where you're going to pull back and get back to that rose-colored glasses kind of view on the relationship. And then that's why the relationship lasts longer. It's because you are remembering your partner as you first imagined them. And it kind of like helps you cycle through the harder parts of, or, just the mundane parts of the relationship. All right, so the next weird thing, if you guys have this in common, is similar grooming or hygiene habits. Like, apparently if you have similar grooming and hygiene, then you're more likely to last longer, and I suppose that's true. Let's get into more of what that means, how they explain that. So, according to another therapist, her name's Kolitsa, she says, if you share this, you may feel comfortable grooming your partner, or you may examine moles and dark hairs on each other. It's like what I mentioned, the weird things that couples do together. So other couples may consider this sort of behavior off limits, like the weird, I don't want to do that to you. And if you and your partner can't find a way to feel comfortable with your personal hygiene behind closed doors, then she's saying you might not have the right things in common to last. But, we all have our weird habits. So I feel like if you do have a weird habit that, where you're physically touching your partner, and it may not pertain to like pimples, like I can't handle that, but like I can groom my partner in other ways and feel comfortable touching him, then that's what's important here. So, okay, so the second to last item on the list for weird things that if you have this in common with your partner, you're more likely to last, and it's speaking the same language. So it's like those inside jokes that I was mentioning earlier. It's also mastering communication. So another counselor says that long-lasting couples have mastered their communication. They also likely use similar phraseology to express themselves, like maybe if I say circle back, my partner does too, although he doesn't and he makes fun of me for it, but that's just an example, right? So yeah, they just go on to say that people who overhear, like the couple might think that they're speaking a different language, but they just understand each other. So they're just communicating with either, pet names that they have, inside jokes, just a communication that you've developed together, and a respectful form of that. Like when you argue, like arguing respectfully and smarter. I actually did an episode on how to fight smarter with your partner a couple episodes ago, and if you want to check that out, you can. But yeah, long-lasting couples, like if you've mastered your form of communication, then you're going to actually have a longer-lasting relationship, which makes sense, right? All right, so the last one on the list is not being bothered by each other's bad habits. So I kind of mentioned this earlier in reference to, just remembering what you love about your partner so you can maintain the rose-colored lens on your relationship as long as possible. But this one specifically just says, everyone has bad habits, and what differentiates an important quality to have in common with a partner and one that is irrelevant to the relationship depends squarely on the impact to daily life. So if you are constantly annoyed by something your partner does daily, just keep track of that. And then if it's not something that your partner can if it's not something you can get over, that's something you have to think about, because your partner's not just going to change all of a sudden. You have to really recognize what is a deal breaker for you. But yeah, so it's I complained earlier about, not putting the dishes in the dishwasher when they're dirty and the dishwasher's empty. But that's not something that is a deal breaker for me. It's just, I know my neurosis is surrounded, by a clean kitchen. So I kind of take that into account. And so his quote unquote bad habits aren't really bad habits. They're just his habits. So if you can reassign, the bad habits that you've noticed, in your daily routine with your partner, whether they're deal breakers or not, that's really going to help you out. Also rewrite the narrative a little bit, and notice if there's such small habits, why do they bother you? And kind of tell yourself in your head, do I really need to be worried about this? And am I making it a bigger deal than it is? That'll really help with a long-term relationship, just kind of reframing what you actually think about the bad habits. Now, that's the end of that list, and I do just want to wrap this up by saying, none of these, take all of these ideas with a grain of salt, right? It's one article that's just mentioning that they found if you had these things in common that, or people in long-term relationships tend to have these weird things in common. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have these things to have a long-lasting and healthy relationship. So take it with a grain of salt, and whatever works for you. I think the biggest takeaway is just knowing what's a deal breaker for you. Is it a deal breaker that your partner doesn't like to travel? Is it a deal breaker for you that they're moving at a different pace than you in life? Just really think about what your needs are. Again, I always come back to that in any relationship podcast that I do, because it's really about exploring you and what's important to you and making sure that you're able to compromise and know the difference between your needs and just small things you can do to distinguish between deal breakers and just small annoying habits that you can't stand. It kind of reminds me of Seinfeld, for Jerry Seinfeld, the main guy in the show, if you don't know, he always found something random and annoying about the next person he was seeing, so that's why he was a perpetual dater. So you want to make sure you know the difference if you actually want a long-term commitment. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about in this segment, just real quick, is 13 annoying relationship things you should stop doing with your partner just for the world in general, that people just get so annoyed about. And I love reading about this stuff, being a couple, because I'm oh yeah, that annoys me too about this one couple. And then I'll see something about my relationship and I'm no, I'm going to keep doing it. So I just thought it'd be fun just to go over the crazy annoying things that couples do that other people hate. And of course it's a BuzzFeed article, so it's just going to be funny. So I hope you guys enjoy it too. But yeah, let's get started. One of the most annoying things that couples do is create and use a joint Facebook account. I don't even understand this one really. I have no idea why people do this. I know it's been done, and I know people have their reasons for doing it. So just let me tell you, I'm not judging you if you've done this, but I'm just confused. I have no idea. So if you do this and you want to, reach out and just be hey, here's a solid and grounded reason why we choose to do this. Yeah, reach out on our Twitter and our Instagram and you can let us know. But yeah, basically it annoys people because it's just unsettling to think that I guess it's unsettling to think that you have to make a joint social media and use it together. Can't you just have your own private account? Do you need to share everything? So that's kind of the argument there. The next thing on the list is just like jokingly dragging your significant other, talking about very private things with your partner in front of everyone. And I know my partner personally hates this because I'm just an open book, and I've always been an open book about everyone and everything in my life. And I know that annoys the hell out of a lot of people that I'm close with. I've tried to, be more respectful with the super private things. But yeah, just when you're dragging your significant other and just like, especially in front of his family and siblings who know him so well, it's really funny to do that. Like to pinpoint like a thing he does all the time that's annoyed his family for years, and now it's annoying me. And it's actually a way to bond. So I don't think it's that annoying, but your partner might think so. So the next annoying thing you should stop doing with your partner is referring to yourself as we for literally everything. And they even have like a little gif of Nicole Richie saying, "That's not cute." So the writer in this BuzzFeed article said like she's not a fan of couples who answer with we and we this and we that. Like she has her own hobbies and does her own things, and like she's separate from her boyfriend, and so there are things they enjoy doing together, but you don't always have to. Like if your friend invites you out, you don't have to say like we. You can say like, I'm doing this, I'll check in with my partner, whatever their name might be. So yeah, they're saying just stop saying we to everything because you are an individual. So just don't. And then another one on the list is like saying we're pregnant. And like has Tom from Parks and Rec saying like, I do not like this. And the writer goes on to say, saying that we're pregnant, it's like, no, you're not. You're expecting, but only the woman is actually pregnant. So make sure you give her the credit for that and don't like take it on for yourself, as men tend to do. But that's the article's opinion. I think it's hilarious because I kind of thought that too. Like, we're pregnant. Are you though? Like, sure, your partner is pregnant, but you're not. You are going to be a parent though, so you can say that, but you're definitely not expecting. Okay. The next one that's kind of annoying, and I totally agree with this. It's for new partners. I'm sure I did this too, but you talk about your significant other 24/7. And you know what? That might not only be for new partners. It's also true like when you're having a hard time in your relationship and all you do is ever talk about your partners when you get with your friends. It's like, sure, we can all share stories and we can all complain about our partners or, like talk about them in a positive way too, but you lean towards complaints with your friends. You just do. But yeah, it's just when it's nonstop and it's obsessive, it drives me nuts. I'm like, yes, I get it, but you have bigger problems than I can help you with. So let's maybe let's slow down that talk and like talk about something else for a minute to get your mind off of it. Okay. The next thing couples do is just like spend 24/7 with each other. That's actually really annoying when your friend has a new partner and they're like always with them. Now I'm respectful of that time and space, but like, hello, after a couple months, it's like, yes, remember me? Yes, hello, let's hang out a little bit. Oh, this one's rough. It's like when the next one is like relying on each other for literally all of your needs, physical, emotional, everything. That was like really hard to not do, especially if you live with your partner. Like remembering that like you used to have happiness without them. It sounds sad to say. It's like, of course, things brought me happiness, like all my personal habits, like reading and cooking and I had a full life without my partner, exercise, like all routines that I had, like that made me happy, going out with my friends by myself, obviously not a we, just an I. But like, it is kind of hard to remember, like before you had a partner, like that you didn't really need them there to do stuff and to have fun and to just have fun on your own. So that is an annoying thing that does happen because it's like you have to relearn what you've already like become comfortable with. Like I'm comfortable having my partner there and being happy with, but I have to relearn that like I am happy on my own and I don't need him for everything. Oh, this one's gross, and this is where we'll end because I totally agree with it. But where you post everything about your relationship on social media. Now, again, I'm not judging anyone who does this. Like I understand why people do this. I have friends that do this. So I'm totally not judging you. And I said it was gross to me just because it's like, I I'm following you on your social media because I love you. And when you post stuff that's just about your relationship and not about like your life, it just becomes like the same thing over and over and over again. So it's just me, I guess maybe it's not really my business and I shouldn't really care, but it's just a slightly annoying thing that happens. Like, I want to see more about like what you're doing with your personality and your individual likes versus just what you and your partner like are traveling to. I would like to see more about your life because you're my friend. That's why I follow you on Facebook or Instagram. But yeah, so I totally agree with this whole article. I highly recommend it just for even a laugh, just the stupid, ridiculous things that relationships, like what happens in them and what people do, and they should totally stop doing. Okay, so I hope you guys liked that segment. I just thought it was a fun way to kind of talk about like the weird dynamics and, you know, the other stuff that brings us together. So not just the weird stuff we do, but like, oh, if you happen to share this kind of weird quirk with your partner, then you're more likely to last longer. And then also stuff that like people find absolutely annoying as hell. So I hope you join me for after the break because I'm going to talk about private things you should always tell your new partner. So the stuff you need to share with the new person in your life so that you can make sure that you have like a healthy foundation. And then at the very end of the episode, I'm going to talk about the secrets you need to keep from your partner in order to have a long-lasting relationship. So make sure you guys come back after the break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast. So before the break, we talked about just weird stuff that people in relationships do. We also talked about, what it looks like, the weird stuff you might do with your partner and how, if they're similar, that the relationship might last longer. And in this segment, we're going to actually switch over to like what you should tell your partner and what you shouldn't tell your partner in a relationship. So in this segment specifically, we'll focus on the things you should always tell your partner, whether it's new or a long-standing relationship. And then at the end of the episode, I'm going to talk about the stuff that you should keep secret instead of being so open and honest. There are some things you should keep to yourself. So, like I said, this segment, we're going to talk about what you should tell your partner. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I found this article on Bustle, and the title of the article is 11 Things You Should Always Tell Your New Partner Early On in Your Relationship. And the first thing they listed was your hard and fast goals for the future. That makes sense, right? You want to make sure that your goals align, and it's kind of similar for the weird traits that couples can share together that let them have a long-lasting relationship. It's like, if you move the pace at which you're moving with your relationship, it's the same with goals, right? So if your goals don't 100% line up, that's fine. But there's always room for compromise. But when it comes to like major life-changing goals for the future, like having kids or getting married, or owning pets even, that could be a deal breaker. It's not always easy to meet each other halfway. So the sooner you can figure that out, the better. And life coach Jaya Myra, which is an interesting name, she tells Bustle that it's not a desire you can just shove and expect it to go away. Like I said, it's like a deal breaker situation. So knowing what your deal breakers are is really important when you have a new relationship. And even when you have an existing relationship and you haven't really explored that part of yourself before, like if you're in a new relationship at the age of 25 and you've been together till the age of 29, 30, and you're thinking about, owning a house versus, just having your individual apartments or living together, like stuff gets a little bit more serious, or it tends to at that age. There are societal pressures. So figuring out what's a deal breaker is definitely important, even in long-term relationships. So maybe this is a good opportunity to sit down and think about, like, what should I really discuss with my partner moving forward? So item number 2 that's listed as stuff that you should always discuss with your new partner is what you like and don't like during sex. Now, this can be hard to do in the beginning, depending on, your style and how fast you incorporate sex into your relationship. But Kayla Back, a health and wellness expert for Maple Holistics, told Bustle that you choose your moments carefully, be delicate and sensitive, but definitely bring it up. It can take a lot of time for things to come out otherwise, and some people spend a great amount of time in sexually repressed state and or unhappy with like what's happening in their sexual relationship, and then they kind of go too long and far into the relationship to feel comfortable bringing up something that they felt for a really long time. So if you're in a new partnership, I would recommend, not me recommending, but this Bustle article recommends, finding a time that's sooner rather than later where you feel comfortable telling your partner your do's and don'ts with sex. And then that way you can establish a healthy sexual relationship sooner and not have any of those problems later on. I mean, this is like anything else, but sex tends to be really sensitive and really scary topics sometimes in relationships. So I understand why they brought that up in this article for stuff that you really should bring up in a new partnership. Okay, number 3 is any addictions you've had or currently have. They do mention that like sex, it's difficult to open up about this topic. But if you see the relationship going somewhere, you need to let your partner know about any significant addictions you may have had in your life. And I would even include in this maybe mental health issues. Not to scare your partner away. Again, that's why it's scary to bring this stuff up. But obviously these are issues that are cyclical. They don't just end. They are a daily battle, maybe not daily, but they're a constant struggle and they're never going to go away. So if you don't want this partnership to go away, being open and honest with that as soon as possible is healthy. And the article mentions that, if you keep this a secret, it's like addiction can make you feel like you're leading a double life. And, secrets come out. So if you do that, you're alienating your partner and not trusting them to have the secret that you have. Maybe it's not a secret, but to know this part about you that they don't know yet. And so you want to, take that a little bit of leap of faith and trust your partner, even if it's new, to see how they handle your past, your baggage, and to see if they can actually support you in moving forward with living the healthy, clean lifestyle that you want to lead. So it's always just a good idea to try and tackle that hurdle as soon as you can, as soon as you feel comfortable and feel trusting of that person. And like I said, even a little leap of faith to get that quote unquote secret out, and just so you don't have any barriers between you and your partner moving forward. Okay. The next one, it does mention mental health issues like I suggested. So that's good. I'm on the right track there. The next one on the list is how your family handled love, anger, sadness, depression, etc., and grief. I really like this suggestion for what you need to talk to your new partner about, because that's essentially how your partner is going to handle those situations. And well, you might not know everything about them. Like the article says, it's not a tell-all. It's not, doing this isn't going to be like a crystal ball where you're going to be able to figure out how your partner handles each and every situation in the future. But it does provide insight into the programming and modeling that they have experienced. So you can have a little bit of a heads up for, if you get into a car accident and you're obviously going to tell your partner, like, let's say it's a minor car accident. I don't mean something like huge and tragic, but let's say that you get into a minor car accident and you've already asked your partner, like, how they handle, like, big stressors, then you're going to kind of already know how to approach telling them that you're safe and you're unharmed, but something major did just happen to you. So you want to make sure that, you know how to approach them in that situation so you don't freak them out, so you don't get into an argument, so you don't, cause more stress into your life than you already have, right? Because car accidents are really scary. Also, under the same little tidbit there, they also say to make sure that you share what you've been through. So it's not just about understanding your partner, right? It's like a partnership, so you both contribute. And so make sure that you are sharing your background, and maybe that's how you approach the conversation in the first place. It's about opening up about yourself and then telling your partner how you handle those situations. And maybe they'll get the hint, or you can just prompt them and say, so this makes me want to know your stressors and how you handle situations so that we know how to support each other moving forward. So I really like that they made it a point to say, hey, no, it's not just about your partner, it's about you as well. Like, you need to make sure that you're sharing your needs if you're the one who's a little bit more reserved or private. Okay. So the next one's pretty interesting. It's how good or bad you may be with money. Now, this is such a scale, right? Because people see good and bad differently, and financial success differently, and everything that comes with money gets a little murky. So I'm just going to focus on what the article says because it just kind of clarifies what they mean by how to express this. So, Zanet Pallet, a sex and intimacy coach, told Bustle that just like sex, talking about a relationship with money is very vulnerable, and sex and money are the third rail of relationships. So there are often expectations around money, like who pays for dinner, vacations, and you need to establish trust in the relationship. And you need to make sure it's important to have these conversations up front once that trust is established. So it just reiterates, like, you don't have to hash out your financial history on your first date. You just start talking about money openly. Like, let's say, for instance, you go on like a fourth or a fifth date with this person, then maybe you can say, hey, you've paid for the last couple of dates. I'd like to pay for this one. It's really important to me to be equal financially. Like, a small statement like that can really get your new partner to see how you feel about money without it being a conversation about your history. Or even if it's not a scenario like that, it can be like, I'm planning to go on this vacation with my friends, but I made sure to book the hotel because I know that they can't put it all on their credit card. A small statement like that also hints to the idea that, you're willing to take on a financial burden if it's necessary. And that you're comfortable doing so. So however you want to start the conversation, it's little statements like that really help open up to other, your partner's views of how you handle money. But, if you feel comfortable enough, just be blatant about it, especially if they're deal breakers. Like I've mentioned multiple times, if it's a deal breaker, tell your partner, even early on. If you feel so comfortable doing so, if you're more direct, like I tend to be direct, so I would probably be that person that's like, hey, so I can't afford that right now, but if you would like to take that trip, you're more than welcome to go with your friends. I just can't afford that. But yeah, just make sure those types of conversations are happening in general in your new relationship, even though they're scary. All right, so the next one on the list is pretty interesting. You want to mention your list of allergies or dietary restrictions. So moving forward, let's say you've been on a couple of dates and you're a vegetarian and it's becoming harder to find stuff on the menu to eat. You want to make sure you tell them that. I mean, that's not really a hard thing to discuss, but it can be a sensitive area for some people because some people just they want to make it as easy as possible in the first couple of dates, but you want to make sure you speak up for yourself and your needs, and especially if it's an allergy or a dietary restriction, And, me and my partner's second date was dinner at his house. Like, he's not going to magically know that I might have an allergy. So that's a situation where I'll have to, tell him. And plus, if you want a long-lasting relationship, let's say that you're a vegetarian and the person that you're seeing is like a hardcore carnivore, like a hardcore one. Like me and my partner both love steak, red meat, even though we obviously know we shouldn't be eating it as much. But yeah, so it's like I think he even told me one time that if I didn't like steak, then we would not be dating. And of course, I'm sure he would find a way to still date me. It's not really, it's just food, but some people really strongly feel that way and it could be a deal breaker. So it's something you want to talk about, because cooking every night with the same person who doesn't like what you like or can't, if you have dietary restrictions or they do, you want to know that sooner rather than later, because that makes life a lot harder. Okay, so number 8 is any health issues that impact your life. And I would add to this, maybe any health issues that your close relatives that you take care of are dealing with. So I have a lot of friends who take care of their grandmothers. And it's because, obviously I'm a little bit older, we're in our 30s, so our grandparents are that much closer to having health issues and having more needs, and we're supporting them. So if you have your time spent with someone who has health issues, it's important to let your partner know that a lot of your time, free time, might not be available to them, and they have to be comfortable with that. They have to be comfortable with the amount of time that you're able to give them. And, letting them know your health issues is good too, because it affects your day to day. So you don't want to try and cover that up. It's kind of like addictions. You want to make sure that anything that you struggle with regularly that impacts your day to day greatly, your partner should definitely know. So I 100% agree with that one. And they also just mentioned, you never know that if your partner will actually just support you. So this is a new partnership, it's really early stages, and it can really help you guys bond and grow together if you feel that you can trust them with this information and they can support you with whatever you need help with. If you have diabetes and you need help with your insulin or anything else like that, it'll just create an open space where you guys can connect. All right, so number 9 is kind of a hard one. It's touchier, I think, than finances or sex, because it's any situation with an ex that you're still affected by. They're saying that you should really communicate that. It's not about telling them the specifics about what happened in that relationship, but it's the trauma that comes afterwards. Like for instance, I had a partner that ghosted me. It was an actual boyfriend who I got ghosted by, and it made me have attachment issues a little bit, and obviously trust issues, but definitely just, now it's I need to make sure I get texted. I need to make sure there's clear communication about feelings, because that blindsided me, and I brought that into my next relationship, not on purpose, and I have healed from it, but it does require me to be a little bit more needy with constant communication. So knowing that and telling my partner that helps them help me, not freak out as much. Of course, it's up to me, my responsibility to trust my partner, but because trust is a little bit harder for me nowadays, it is helpful to know that and to communicate that need. So just remember that your partner can be your ally in this. They don't have to be just, scared by the baggage you tell them. They can actually love you and be compassionate and understand that you're a person with history and different traumas in your life. So they can help you work through the issues you may still have. So it's always good to try and be as open and honest as you can in these types of situations. Okay, so number 10 is whether or not you've been in love before. Now, that's really interesting to me, just considering the time of life that I'm in, but I guess it shouldn't be. When you're younger and you're just dating, there doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in love with someone. So the article says, if you're both new to this whole dating thing, you might want to update each other on whether or not you've ever been in love. And they say this one's tricky, but if you really like someone and want to build a strong relationship, it's important you both understand where you are on the love spectrum. And if you've ever been deeply in love before, you may learn to relate to love differently or learn not so subtle cues about how to effectively navigate your relationship for the better. So this is basically just saying it's important to mention like whether or not you've been in love, because this particular relationship could just feel differently. And different isn't bad or good, it's just different. And like any dating history, it's important for your partner to know exactly where you're at, to know about your past and your dating history, not specifics, but just your feelings and what you've learned and what you've been through and what you haven't been through. And so this is kind of a part of that as well. But I thought it was interesting. So the last item on the article for things you should always tell your new partner is just the things that you need in order to be happy, on a day-to-day basis. Again, this is kind of like the finance and money question. It doesn't have to come like right away, but it can come in small little comments. Like, for instance, in order for me to be happy, I need to be able to sleep in. So, and in order for my partner to be happy, he needs to be able to go to bed on time. So it's good to know those things about each other before, move in or before you continue your relationship and you realize you have like crazy different patterns. You should definitely just have these little questions, and they're kind of icebreakers too, like, are you a night owl? Are you an early riser, or do you like to cook? You ask those kinds of questions anyway. A couple questions that the article recommended was, do you require a decent amount of alone time in order to decompress? Do you need 9 hours of sleep, or do you hate to be woken up? Are you all about hugs, or do you prefer personal space? So, and it mentions like this doesn't need to be an exhaustive list. It's not like, where you you have to check off a list of things that your partner needs to have, but it's just necessary things in everyday life, again, just to be happy. And as happy as you are when you're single, you want to continue the things that like drive and make you thrive. So I say that these are great questions to ask, and they don't have to be scary either. You just have to trust the person enough to ask them. So I think these were important questions to ask in a new relationship. And like I said, even if it's not a new relationship, and you haven't asked these questions yet, and you see the relationship being like, forever, like marriage or something like that, then definitely ask these questions. Okay, great. So that's the end of this segment where we talked about, the things you should be telling your new partner, or even if you're in a long-term relationship and you haven't discussed these things yet, what's important to discuss. And then after this break, we're going to talk about the stuff you shouldn't tell your partner. So the secrets you actually do keep from your partner. So make sure you stick around after the break, and we'll talk about our dirty little secrets.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey guys, welcome back from the break. So all of this episode, and including the last segment, we talked about like the weird stuff that partners do. And if you do the same weird things together, then it's more likely that you guys will stick together. And specifically, last segment, we just talked about the things you should really tell your new partner, specific things about you, like either mental mental well-being or mental health, rather. But yeah, anyways, so we went over what you should tell them. Now we're going to discuss the secrets that you actually should keep from your partner, which I found really interesting because I'm always really focused on honesty and openness and keeping kind of no secrets. Like I said earlier, I think I really I'm really open with everyone. I'm an open book. So I found it really interesting that there's suggestions that you should keep secrets to yourself. So I'm going to go over that right now. Where I found this article, it's called 13 Secrets You Should Always Keep from Your Partner. And I found this off of bestlifeonline.com. So yeah, check it out if you're interested, because they have other articles that are interesting too. But anyways, the first secret that they say that you should keep is your sexual history. Now earlier I did mention that you should be open with your partner about the trauma from your relationship past and sexual experience, but you shouldn't really speak about the specifics. And I guess this is just verifying that. Like, number one is your sexual history. And they say that while it may sometimes come up in conversation, relationship experts say that apart from any medical concerns you might have, telling your significant other pretty much has zero benefits. So according to David Ezel, the clinical director of Darren Wellness, he said in this scenario, just don't ask and don't tell. He also says some people love the juvenile idea of a virgin bride or groom. Some really want a seasoned partner, and most land somewhere in between. But more often than not, this is a topic that should stay off limits, even if you think you can predict the results. So yeah, he's just detailing like, hey, don't start a conversation you can't end, or that won't end well. Right? So I did a podcast on how to fight smarter, and they say if you start a fight positively, you'll end one positively. And so if you start a conversation about, having sex with a different person, it's not really starting the conversation off right. So they're just saying to avoid it altogether, and I 100% agree. What's in the past is in the past. Okay, so number 2 is your secret single behaviors. And basically this one's just talking about if you used to binge eat an entire cake or pie by yourself, like while you were living alone, or maybe with, family who just knew you already. It's, just keep that kind of stuff to yourself, or watching bad TV in your underwear. I'm not really sure, why this is considered, on the list of stuff that, secrets you should keep. I don't really see a problem with that kind of behavior because you're just being yourself in front of your partner. But I guess relationship expert Erica Gordon just says you got to keep some of the personal stuff behind closed doors because it increases the sexuality between the two couples. But not sure if I agree with that. So let's keep going. The next secret apparently that you should keep from your partner is your minor relationship doubts. And according to Carol Ward, a licensed psychotherapist, she says that there are times in both new and long-standing relationships when you may find yourself questioning whether you want the relationship to continue. These initial thoughts are not helpful to share because it will create insecurity and hurt feelings. So she suggests to sit with your feelings and process them on your own. Only if the feelings persist and become stronger over time should you share them with your partner. So, yeah, I would really agree with this one. Like I said, I'm an oversharer, and sometimes I do this as well. So it kind of gives the relationship a negative tinge instead of, letting things work themselves out with time. With time comes clarity, and with time comes, just space to heal and to really process if there's patterns of behavior versus just stuff that's bothering you in the moment. So I would second this one. It's I mentioned in the Fight Smarter podcast that it is recommended not to bottle stuff up, but it is harmful also to have a complaint like every day, because you don't want to bottle it up. So you say it in the moment, but then it kind of gives this negative tinge to the relationship if you do that too often. And I find this similar to that as well. It's like, if just because you have a doubt doesn't mean that is a fact, right? You need it to play out. So yeah, just, I say I agree with that one. Definitely if you have minor doubts, just kind of wait until they become like pretty evidently big problems. Okay. The next one, secrets that you should keep from your partner is that you wish they were more successful. To me, that one's pretty obvious, right? Like, you don't want to tell your partner that they haven't achieved the levels of expectations that you have for them. That's just a little intense. So, but they say, let's say your partner has a job that they're passionate about, but it doesn't necessarily leave them rolling in dough. Or maybe you can't figure out why they don't just try a little harder to move up the ranks at their current gig. According to Rhonda Mildrad, the founder of the Relation Up online community, she said, if you share this frustration, your comments will be experienced as unsupportive and hurtful to your partner, which to me is pretty obvious, but it's good. It's a good reminder, I suppose, not to like tell them they didn't meet your expectations. But she said, this is especially true if your significant other has ever struggled with self-confidence issues in the past. And yeah, that makes total sense, right? Okay, so number 5 of the secrets that you should keep from your partner is you dislike one of their family members. Paul DePompo, a clinical psychologist, he said, this is one of the hardest secrets to keep, but one of the most important. You certainly don't have to say you love them, but spewing any hate will only backfire. And if their mother, sister, brother, uncle, or whoever is truly terrible, eventually the issue will come to light and you will play a supportive role. So, what he means by that is saying, like, if you just stick your ground and stay solid in yourself and don't say anything about it, like, eventually, it'll be shown that that person has an issue with you or you have an issue with them. So just let that come to light on its own and don't really get involved with the relationships between, your partner and their siblings. It's who they are. They're never going to leave. It's like if you have a sibling, you know that, or if you don't have a sibling, you have a parent and you can't help your parents. So, but like when anyone else gets involved and, dislikes your parents, it's sensitive. So anyways, I agree with that one. That is totally true. Maybe not a secret. Like I would actually suggest that you do tell them that you have an issue for like specific reasons. But other than that, don't say you dislike them, just say you have issues. I disagree with keeping that a secret altogether. Okay. Number 6 on the list of secrets you should keep is that you don't like something they can't change. Oof. That's a tough one to swallow because it's like hard to admit that like there is something about your partner that you might want to change that doesn't change, but it's true. So, we all have a little something we want to change. And if you don't, then that's a wonderful relationship. But yeah, I would say it's more common that people do have small things they would like to change about their partner that just will never happen. But according to April Massini, a relationship and etiquette expert, she said it's much kinder to harbor little white lies having to do with your partner's haircut, hair color, meatloaf recipe, and dance moves. If you love someone, sacrifice the truth in these situations. Tell them that you want seconds on the meatloaf, ask them to dance, and compliment their haircut. Their smile in return will let you know you did the right thing. Now, that one again is just like, how far can you go with that one? Or, would it really hurt your partner if you dyed your hair and they said they didn't like it? It's just, I think that really depends on the person, right? How well they receive, criticism or how well they receive like hate. If they're sensitive to that, obviously, then it would be nicer to just have a little white lie because I think in the long run, it won't hurt anyone. But again, up to you. Use discretion with this one. Okay, so another secret they say to keep from your partner is you think one of their friends is hot. And I think that's hilarious because it just sounds like such a sitcom scenario. But according to another relationship expert, they say if you're attracted to one of their close friends, it's okay to keep that a secret. But it's funny because they also clarify, they're like, well, it's only okay if you choose not to act on it. So yeah, if you are choosing not to cheat on your significant other, go ahead and keep that one a secret. But, they're saying if it's just simply that you're a little bit attracted to one of their friends, it's not a big deal. And plus, you'd make everything immediately awkward if you told your partner that you think their friend is hot. So they're just saying that, again, I don't know if that's really needs to be a secret. I mean, if you trust each other in your relationship, and it depends on the person, of course. But yeah, if my partner found one of my friends attractive, I would just say, I know. I mean, I noticed that myself as well. Most of the friends I have, I think, are attractive. So anyways, that's just us though. Number 8, what you should tell your or what you should keep from your partner, is what you spend your own personal money on. So of course this depends if you don't have a joint account at this point, but there are several reasons that they say that if you don't, that you have separate accounts, that you don't tell them what you spend your money on. Because there are times when you spend money just for you. And so if you're obsessed with a pair of shoes that are going to go on sale and they wouldn't approve of, just go ahead and make the purchase if it's not going to be something that greatly impacts your finances and it's going to cause you to not have to not pay the bills and stuff like that. They're saying if it's a small amount of money, it's not really significant enough to have to tell your partner about that purchase. But that's fitting if you have a joint account as well, right? Because, you're sharing finances. So if it's not a big dent in the bank account, then it doesn't really show up or on their radar. But again, I think your mileage might vary. Some people can be very open and their partners don't care what they spend. So again, it really just depends on your partner. And number 9 on the list of secrets you should keep from your partner is anything negative your friends or family say about them. So according to another relationship expert, they say it is best if you don't share the initial negative reactions that your loved ones had about your partner. These comments can be very hurtful and hard to recover from. If you reveal them, your partner will always remember what was said and later on may use it as evidence that your friend or family never liked them from the start. So, and how does it benefit them for them to know that kind of information? I think even with time, heals all wounds. So if they got a bad first impression and you are with this partner long enough for it to matter, what your family thinks and their impression of them, then I think things will start to pan out and you can figure out the conflict as you go. But okay, so, oh wow. The 10th one on the list for secrets you can keep from your partner is you've had better sex. I really hope no one's saying that to their partner, maybe in jest, I suppose, if you're both maybe intoxicated in some way, but I'm not sure why that would ever come up. But yeah, according to another licensed psychologist, your partner wants to know that they are the best lover ever. They want you to forget all others before them, and there's no good from letting your partner know how great the sex was with someone else from your past. The advice is that this just opens up Pandora's box, so they just say it's better to keep that closed. And I wholeheartedly agree, right? Our partners don't need to know that reminding them that we've slept with other people, and 2, reminding them that they're not even that good. So why it just, yeah, that would be a good secret to keep from your partner. I would agree. Okay. Number 11 of the secrets that you should keep from your partner is that you weren't initially attracted to them. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't mention that either. I mean, that's interesting that this makes the list, but, according to Kimberly, wow. Sorry guys, Hershenson. Wow, I apologize. That was a rough one for me. But she says attraction often grows after getting to know someone. So it's not really helpful to tell your partner that at first you weren't attracted to them because it's just irrelevant at this point and you're with them now. So there's no real reason to share that piece of information. Okay. And once again, I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, it's not even a lie. It's just kind of not telling them a piece of information that might hurt their feelings. So I agree with that one. Okay, so number 14 on the list of secrets you should keep from your partner is that you like a certain thing better about your ex than you do them. Yeah, so DePompo, I mentioned this relationship expert earlier, but they say that there's no point in reminiscing with your partner about what you miss from your ex or what was better in that relationship. They're just saying again, what will that accomplish? they finish it up with saying, your time could be better spent taking what you learned from that relationship and how you built upon it in this relationship. Like, how did this relationship heal that part of your past relationship? And I can't believe that this is really on here, but yeah, number 13, a secret that you should not tell your partner is that you think they should lose weight. And yeah, that's 100% the smartest thing you can do is definitely never tell your partner they need to lose weight. If you think for health reasons that they need to lose weight, then that's a separate conversation and something a doctor should probably address. But other than that, yeah, that's kind of a duh. Let's keep that to yourself if that's really what you think. All right. So that's the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do apologize if you guys heard some noises in the background. That would be Max, and he woke up from his nap. So I do apologize if there's any audio with like scratches in the background. I did try and cut out as much of that as possible. And he only woke up at the tail end here, pun intended. So I do apologize for that. But yeah, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And also, if you could write us a review on iTunes, or now it's called Apple Podcasts, that would be great. All you have to do is go to our show off the iTunes store, and then you can just write us a review. 5 stars would be cool, but whatever you feel as honest and communicative as you can, that would be lovely. So we hope to see you next time, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.